Yeah, obviously unscripted. Okay, hi folks, welcome to another Man Up video with Dan and I. Obviously, we're doing these every Thursday throughout lockdown. Hopefully, not much longer. But on tonight's one, we're going to be talking to folks who are working in education, working with young people and parents, and understanding a little bit more about what I think Dan has also described as sort of young people have been a little bit lost out on this. And yeah, we're here to talk to some folks in education about it. So does everyone want to do a quick intro into who they are, briefly what they do, and then we can start having a chat. David, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm here really as a trustee on behalf of Family First, who are a charity that work with families and young people. I've got a background in working with young people as sort of a connections and youth worker for quite a few years. And I still work here in my day job with young people and children and families as well. So I've, going back quite a few years, got a lot of experience working with this sort of client group, really.
Awesome. Andy?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Andy Green, and I'm the principal of Coppleston High School. And obviously, the lockdown's been a difficult time for students and families alike, and of course staff. And just here really to give a bit of a perspective on that.
Cool. And last but not least, Daniel.
Hey everyone. Yeah, I'm the kids team leader at Hope Church in Ipswich, and I basically oversee the kids ministry, which involves sort of the Sunday morning stuff. So the different groups and things like that go on here at Hope Church. So yeah, that's me.
Good stuff. Cheers, gents. First question I want to ask Andy. So I'll fess up one of the governors at Coppleston. So I've known Andy for a good few years. This week must have been mental. I've seen a lot of emails flying around. What's it been like in a school with all of the students and staff coming back?
I mean, it has been very, very busy, obviously. What I would say is that this week has really been several weeks, months, if you like, in the planning. And, we're very lucky. We've got a fantastic staff, as you know, and people have really risen to the challenge. The students have been magnificent. And it's actually gone really well. We were able to test all the students prior to them coming back this week as well, which worked fantastically well. So that's all been done. So they were all able to come back on the Monday. The staff have been fantastic, and I have to say the students have been absolutely magnificent. So whilst it was a big undertaking, obviously, for all of those students to come back, and some levels of anxiety clearly around that, because we'd been locked down for a couple of months. It was also really exciting to get back, and great in many ways to be able to see students in classrooms in front of their teachers, having some face-to-face teaching. And yes, of course, a little bit different to normal. They're all wearing face masks in lessons and everything, but that's better than not being in school at all, in my opinion. And we've got lots of safety measures in place which we have to do. So with staggered starts and staggered finishes, and different year groups on lunch at different times, and all of those sorts of things to keep it as safe as we possibly can, which you need in any school, let alone one with nearly 2,000 students. But it has been a joy to see the young people back, and the staff have been equally magnificent. So yeah, tiring, a little bit sort of stressful at times, but a really exciting and wonderful experience.
Wow. So have you noticed much of a trend with the kids' mental health? And I know you mentioned anxiety. Are they any different to how they normally are?
I think that's a really good question, and I think the word trend is always a difficult one, because I think what I would say is that, first of all, I'll start up by giving a real plug for the high, and a bit about the school, Daniel, the work that other people do around mental health and well-being in the school. We're very lucky to have Kelly Osmond for quite a lot of time, who, as you know, is a trained, CAMS practitioner, and now works several days a week in the school. We've also had a 3 days a week counsellor that we have on site. So we have some fantastic support and some fantastic staff that we can signpost students and families to, and also some excellent pastoral staff. And throughout the whole of the lockdown, a lot of our classroom teaching assistants have been contacting youngsters that we might have concerns about on almost a daily basis. So we've done an awful lot of work you can never eradicate the problems, but I'm a great believer in that if you know where the problems might be, and you know those that might need the support, and sometimes you don't know, of course, but if you can try and deal with the problems as early as possible, and have really good sort of systems in place to signpost students, then you may be able to be more successful in dealing with the issues. But of course, yes, there's been issues. Of course, we've had students who've been anxious. Of course, we've had students who've desperately missed not only seeing their friends, but missed being able to see their family and things like that. And equally, which is important to mention, we've had some students who've absolutely flourished learning remotely from home and have really enjoyed being at home. I spoke to a student who I teach in year 11 yesterday who said exactly that to me. I've really enjoyed working from home. It's really suited me. So, I think the same would apply to the whole well-being issue. I think it depends on the individual and the needs of the individual. I couldn't say I've picked out specific trends. I could say that students have been more anxious than possibly you would ordinarily expect, but I think that probably mirrors the rest of society.
Yeah. Okay. Because I heard something earlier, I think it was on the news actually, where people are just like, oh, well, kids are really resilient, so don't worry about it. And I kind of, as a dad of two, I kind of agree with it, but I find that's also quite an ignorant comment to say. I don't know where I was going with that, but it's just one of those bracing. I'm sure they didn't mean anything about it, but to hear that comment over national news, I was just like, really? It just feels like the younger generation's been forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, look, somebody else needs to chip in, I'm sure, in a moment, but I think the comment that all students are really resilient is a little bit like saying everybody's going to be equally good at golf or football, which is obviously not the case. I think, all students have their own kind of backstory, and as all adults do as well. And all adults are sometimes more resilient to certain things than others, and the same applies to students. And we kind of recognise at Coppleston that this has been really tough for students. And yes, a lot of the work that Kelly and her team do at Coppleston is around building up student resilience, because that's an important skill for life, obviously. But we acknowledge that there's been a number of students that are going to need either support from us or signposting to the right organisations in order to access further support. And I think that work in schools is really powerful and really important. And as Jordan knows, I thought that 2 or 3 years ago, maybe more, which is why we've invested quite a lot of funding in making sure that we provide that service within our school.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, man. Thank you very much. So who should we do next, Jordan?
I was going to pick on David next. David, you work with, and make sure you're on mute. You're trustee at Family First, so you're seeing firsthand some of the challenges that families have been having, in particular with kids at home. What have been some of those challenges? Are those challenges starting to ease a little bit now that kids are going back into school?
Well, I think they are a little bit. I mean, I think I was really interested what was just said about, on the flip side, some people's worries and anxieties have actually got a bit better, because if some of their problems are about school phobia and finding it really difficult going into school, the fact they've been able to work from home has actually helped in some ways. So some of their problems have kind of immediately gone away and they've been less anxious. But of course, it doesn't really help them in the long term, because they've still got to now face going back into school. And obviously, the isolation, they really need to sort of come out of that. And we need to help young people to come through that isolation and get back into society. So that's interesting. But I mean, a lot of the families we work with, a lot of the young people, just generally, whether there's a lockdown or not, I mean, we face young people living with anxiety and problems around eating disorders, self-harm, sleep patterns, anger as well. We do a lot of anger management work, young people that are getting very angry, and that's affecting everything around them. So I think some of these anxieties have definitely gone up during lockdown, there's no doubt. And obviously you get some young people that are very anxious just generally about the virus. They're seeing what's on the news, they're seeing fear in their parents, they're seeing everyone in face masks everywhere. And, you know, if an anxious young person is seeing that, it's bound to kind of affect them. And they're obviously a lot more isolated. So a lot of they're not seeing their friends, a lot of their activities have been cancelled. Their sports and their clubs and their dance and their drama and things, they've not been going out as much. School trips and holidays and breaks and things with their families have all been cancelled. So, you know, not having people over to play and do things together. And just the general sort of less exercise, less going out. I think sleep is also a big thing as well. You get, you know, young people are often getting into these patterns where they're maybe playing games all night and then sleeping late into the afternoon, things like that. And that's another pattern we see quite a lot with the families. Maybe as well problems then with their diet and eating, snacking. I think we're all facing difficulties with that, aren't we? But young people particularly, they're sitting playing their games and maybe drinking a bit more Coke than they normally do and eating a bit more crisps, you know, a few more crisps and chocolate than they normally do. So, you know, there's some of the problems that we're finding. And we're having to work with young people and families through some of these, helping them get back into good sleep patterns, maybe encouraging families to do more activities at home, you know, have movies together and play games together, maybe do some cooking and baking together and reading and things like that. Maybe getting out as a family more, doing some walks, especially if they've got a pet or something, that helps. So they're the kind of things that we're trying to help them with, really, and just get back into those routines.
So my little disclaimer is I'm actually a trustee of Family First, so I do know a lot more than the other guys here. Do you find Family First deals with families what are in a bit of a pickle, with arguably working together? There might be a disability, anxiety, you name it, and all this kind of stuff. But do you find because of lockdown, because they can't go to school, the family doesn't get to have a break? Do you think that's causing?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think that has caused some problems. Yeah, because, you know, people are just together all the time, aren't they? So, you know, those tensions that are there anyway, especially like maybe with the teenagers that have got those sort of teenage things going on as well, and they're just on top of each other all the time. I think that's definitely caused some difficulties. Yeah, and that's why we're trying to encourage people to maybe have some of their own space and, you know, do some activities where you're getting a bit of a break. And you know, we've been allowed to go out, haven't we? So, you know, going out for walks. And my own daughter, for example, if she has any kind of, if she gets angry about anything, one of her things that she goes to is she just loves her dog, and she'll go and give the dog a cuddle and pick the dog up, or maybe we'll take the dog around the block and everything goes away. So we sort of use things like that to try to give people a break from each other, and just sort of advise those kind of things, really. Do what works for your particular family.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. Thank you very much. So I think we've got.
I was just going to say, I think, sorry, I was just going to say, I think what David said is absolutely spot on. You know, I've been working from home a lot of the time prior to obviously going back, and we've had 3 boys, you know, 2 in high school and 1 at primary school, trying to access remote learning and support that the best we can, and a little baby who's 6 months old. And you know, I've said before, and I've said this on the radio, I have every sympathy with families, you know, because it's not easy. You know, the whole working from home and learning from home is very, very demanding. And I agree with what David said. The little things like, you know, every Wednesday we've said, you know, we're not having any devices, any phones, no Xbox, no PlayStation. We're going to watch a film on a Wednesday night, you know, and a couple of nights a week, you know, one of the boys will cook the tea, you know, and, you know, or we'll go out for a walk in the park, or we'll go for a walk in the countryside. Just little things that kind of, keep the family doing, you know, and giving them the opportunity to do things together, but also continuing to try to give some variety to the children as well, in terms of their experience. But I have every sympathy, because, you know, I say this from the point of view of somebody, you know, obviously in education, and I take my hat off to the parents. It is difficult. you know, and I've said that all along. You know, it is not easy. You know, being a parent and doing a job at the same time. I have every kind of, well, it's every credit to all of the parents, because it's been very, very challenging.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Absolutely. So should we do last but certainly not least, should we jump over to Dan? You got to unmute yourself there, mate.
Hey guys.
Anyway, so Dan, you're a kids leader in a local church, Hope Church in Ipswich. Well, you've already introduced yourself, haven't you? Sorry. So is there anything like I've jumped, sorry Jordan, I've swapped again with you, haven't I? But is there anything, I know you deal mostly with the Sunday stuff, have you noticed anything with children during lockdown?
Just picking up on what Andy said about some have flourished. I work with children at age sort of 1 to 11, so it's probably a younger bracket. But I have noticed that, firstly, community is so important, isn't it? And I know we all know that, but it's taken this for me to really see that, like, it's so important, you know, being just in contact with our peers and our friends and having that support network. And it was only really halfway through where I started doing I'd put like videos out in the morning on a Sunday for sort of like that interaction. But for the older kids, so aged 9 to 11, we started doing Zoom calls, and I found that it was quite cool. They started to really interact more so than what they actually would have if we were in person. Just their ability to sort of maybe speak up or share their view or their point. And I found that really interesting. Yeah, go on, Dan.
Could I just be a bit? Could you just move your mic away from your jacket?
Is that better?
Yeah, it was just rubbing. We couldn't hear.
Okay.
Go on. Please continue.
No. So I just found that really interesting because just that opportunity through a different a different way, a different media, and the kids seem to really open up, and you know, voicing their opinions, their views, interacting. And I was really encouraged by that. And I guess for all of us, in a way, it's, you know, we've had this period where we've had to use Zoom and different calls and stuff like that, different like media. How can we incorporate that? Because there is a benefit to it. I've definitely seen that in sort of what I've been doing. But that was really encouraging. Like, I love that. And it's meant that they've built friendships and they've formed this community. And then taking that back into in-person, I'm not sure how that will pan out, but it can only be good. But I was really encouraged with that. But I know that they will all be looking forward to, you know, coming back and seeing their friends and being able to hang out and talk and catch up. But that for me was really encouraging to see how even through this, there's been fruit, there's been, you know, as Andy said, like, some have flourished, which is really cool.
I think that's really interesting because I did a career talk to a couple hundred students last week, and I was inundated with questions afterwards, whereas usually you speak to a large group of students, complete silence after, or maybe, you know, one of the really confident kids will often put the hand up, let's start. Loads of questions coming in, because I think there isn't that barrier between, oh, I'm going to ask a stupid question and my mate's going to laugh at me, whereas you can just send it in and it's anonymous or whatever, and it's fine. And the questions were brilliant. And I'm glad you mentioned it, Dan, because I think we need sort of a hybrid approach, perhaps, to some things in the future, especially, you know, if you've got folks coming in doing talks. I mean, with the students you're talking to, you know, are they quite optimistic for sort of the future and sort of next pathways, or are they still a little bit glum and not sure what's going to be happening?
Is this for me, Jordan?
Yeah.
Well, I only got sort of 11 years old, so it's difficult to gauge sort of more of the details in their life, sort of how they're thinking, what they're doing, where they're going. But it's difficult to comment on that. But I know that they're looking forward definitely to seeing their friends. Like, you can imagine being that age, you know, going to the park or whatever, or doing the fun things, movies, or all that sort of stuff. Like, they're definitely missing that. And I know from being on the calls and stuff that they're looking forward to just being together again and enjoying life, because at that age, that's what it's about, isn't it? There's not so much too many cares, but it's just enjoying enjoying life and having fun. So,
I'm 24. I feel the same way, so I won't worry about what they think. Yeah.
Well, I think for me, I think that my eldest, I said to him actually, I said to him, "What do you miss most?" And he said, "School and going around my grandparents."
Oh,
Just a simple thing. It's just crazy because I think the thing is the one thing about what's frustrated me about the whole lockdown of children is everyone saying close the schools. That's it. Schools should be the last things will open. But as somebody who had not the best upbringing, I missed a lot of my school. So I missed a lot of that life of growing up with other kids and all of this. So I would never ever wish that upon another child ever again. So I think it's not just learning maths. It's not just doing the GCSEs and all of the legal gobbledygook. No offense, Andy, but it's also about being friends and learning from other kids as well. And that's what saddens me about the whole lockdown thing.
Yeah, I think, and just to comment on that, I think you're absolutely spot on, and we would say that in schools, and I think we don't, sometimes as adults we say that we're more resilient than students, but I'm very happy within this kind of forum to say, I haven't seen my dad for a very long while, and I'm looking forward to being able to see him again, and he's looking forward to being able to see his grandchildren again, and we're looking forward to doing the things that we've always taken for granted, popping over and going out for a coffee and sitting in the in the house and just chatting away, and all of the things that we've all been doing forever that we suddenly had to stop doing. And if I found that hard at times, then I can only imagine that young children, particularly of primary school age, I think, although not exclusively of primary school age, have found it incredibly difficult, because and when you're in your formative years, particularly in primary school, those social experiences really help to shape you. So I absolutely agree. While schools are about giving students the best education they can and the best career opportunities, they're very much about socializing and giving children social experiences and helping them to become well-rounded individuals that can then progress into adult life and be able to hold social relationships with other people. So yeah, the sooner that we can get back to that safely, I think youngsters and indeed adults alike, the better off we'll all be.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious of time as well.
Oh yeah, Andy's got a bath his daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want Andy to be in trouble.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just one very, very quick question, just to David, actually, because Family First deals with single parents, don't they, quite a bit?
Yeah.
So the one thing is, I know with some friends who are single parents, how are they dealing with? Because sometimes a lot of them, their social thing is like kids' days in local libraries, like the mums groups and stuff like that. Has that had a knock-on effect, if that made any sense?
Yeah, I think it has. I think if you are a single parent, you've got all those added pressures anyway, haven't you? And maybe some financial pressures as well sometimes, not exclusively, but you get those kind of pressures as well, and it does make it a little bit harder for, I think, perhaps single parents in particular find that isolation a problem anyway, don't they? Sometimes they feel a little bit like tied to the house and tied to their kids, and they don't got quite so much of that interaction. And maybe those activities for them are really, really important to them, to be able to go out to a mum's group or go out to a dad's group, or do those kind of activities. And while that's been shut down, I think that has affected them. So as been said already, as we start to open up now and they can go back to those kind of things, it will make a massive difference to them and their children.
No, thanks for that. So anyway, we better close this one anyway, because Andy's going to get in trouble. do you want to call this one a day, Jordan? Or?
I certainly can. So yeah, folks, huge thank you for watching this video. I've learned a lot, and I think it's interesting to hear the perspectives of lots of different folks working with young people. And I think Andy picked up on it there. I think we often forget that teachers and education professionals also have got families working from home and dealing with the homeschool pressure, as well as trying to teach hundreds of kids at the same time as well. So gents, huge thank you for joining us. Obviously, we do these videos every 5:30.
Can I just
yeah.
can I
Go
just step in on one thing actually?
Yeah.
To be honest, because obviously it's no secret Manup is going through the whole charity gobbledygook. So hopefully, but I don't think we would be where we are now without Andy, you letting us use Coppleston High School.
Really good point. Yeah.
So I would like to say that publicly, actually, because when within 20 minutes we contact trying to blag it through Jordan to you saying, yeah, you can have our field, and look where we are now. So thank you very much for that.
And it's an absolute pleasure. And can I return the compliment by thanking you for the work that you're doing in a hugely important cause, and also just thank all the people in this meeting, because I've really enjoyed listening today to the different perspectives, and to see so much joined up thinking amongst people that work in kind of slightly different settings, but they all very much are on the same page about wanting the best outcomes and the best provision for everybody, including young people. So I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
No, thank you to each and every one of you. Well, I'm just going to turn off the